Caillou.
But I want to play.
What the hell is wrong with you?
This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Make sure to subscribe and help get this video to 4,000 likes. Caillou's parents bring Rosie home from the hospital. Caillou is excited to meet his newborn sister for the first time, until his parents start giving her all their affection. Rosie is less than a week old, and already Caillou's parents know she's the good child. Caillou is mad he's no longer the center of attention, and sets out to make Rosie's life a living hell. He trashes his own doll because it reminds him too much of his sister. Sexist much?
Being sexist is wrong, and being wrong is for women.
Daddy stupidly asks his 2.5-year-old son if he wants to hold the baby. Caillou yells in Daddy's face, which somehow doesn't lead to an instant ass-whooping. Daddy makes the grave mistake of leaving baby Rosie alone for 2 seconds, as Caillou puts his dastardly scheme into action. He tricks Rosie into thinking he likes her and then promptly pinches her until she cries. Geez, even DW never went that far.
If that back row pinch you!
Rosie cries her head off as Caillou refuses to stop pinching her until Daddy rips her from his arms. Daddy scolds his son for the first time in his life, which isn't very effective when your voice has all the cadence of Mr. McFeely's bottom bitch.
Why did you do that to Rosie?
Your voice sounds stupid!
Caillou shows no remorse for torturing his baby sister, proudly proclaiming he doesn't like her. Instead of grounding Caillou for the rest of his life, Daddy tries to reason with the balding bad seed. Caillou says he hates his sister because she doesn't want to play, even though he's made it clear up till now he was jealous of all the attention she was getting. Daddy tells Caillou it's his duty as a big brother to protect his defenseless little sister. Rosie, you poor bastard. Daddy indirectly punishes Caillou by making him help change Rosie's diaper, since clearly every member of this family is full of shit. Also, how did he change her diaper without taking off her onesie? The world may never know. Caillou brags to Mommy that he helped change Rosie, even though he barely did a damn thing. Mommy proves she's just as stupid as Daddy and allows the bratty baby to hold his sister. Caillou remarks how good Rosie smells, which makes me nervous about what Caillou thinks they're having for dinner. Let's review. Caillou got jealous of his newborn baby sister because he was no longer the center of attention. He decided he hated her and set out to torture her until she cried. And even when he got caught, he was only punished with a slap on the wrist, ensuring Rosie's childhood will be a formidable hell. FU Caillou. Caillou dreams of joining the circus as a lion tamer, while most of us dream of feeding Caillou to a lion. Caillou is excited to go to the circus with Daddy. He gets dressed all by himself and ruins half his clothes in the process. Caillou's father tells his son he did a good job, because Daddy is a blatant liar. He reminds Caillou they aren't going to the circus until tomorrow. Caillou refuses to believe he got the date wrong and has the mother of all meltdowns.
No, it's today. I got all dressed. It's today.
He breaks his toys and flails on the ground until Daddy tells him to cut that shit out. Turns out, all of his bitch crying woke Rosie from her nap. Caillou is still pissed off as he doesn't get that he only needs to wait one more day to visit the circus. Daddy tries to soothe his son's rage by turning breakfast time into Caillou's personal circus. Caillou tries to join in on the fun, but only makes things worse by dropping eggs and burning the toast. Daddy burns his hands on the toast, and instead of helping, the psychotic 3-year-old bursts out laughing at his father's pain and suffering.
You sicken me.
The two make their own circus parade, where Caillou wakes his mom with his non-stop pan banging. Caillou invites his mom to be in the parade. Caillou's mom says fuck that and goes back to bed. And while we don't see the family's trip to the circus, we can only assume Caillou's parents abandoned him there with the other freaks. Let's review. Caillou turned into a whiny little bitch because he didn't know how calendars work. He refused to calm down as he spent the whole morning breaking his toys, disturbing his sister's sleep, and screaming at his father. Instead of grounding his son for the rest of his miserable little life, Daddy turned breakfast into playtime in a feeble attempt to keep Caillou's chaos at bay. Daddy's efforts were rewarded with a messy kitchen and second-degree burns, because God is forever punishing him for bringing this little bald bastard into the world. And even when Caillou finally calmed down, he woke up his mom with his loud-ass pots and pans, proving once and for all Caillou doesn't need to go to the circus, he needs to go to counseling. FU Caillou. Caillou is banging on his toy drums when his mom tells him to knock that shit off. Baby Rosie needs to take a nap, but Caillou wants to play. Caillou's mom tells him to play quietly. Caillou says fuck that and dumps his Legos all over the floor. Caillou decides to make cookies after looking at a blank book. Caillou goes to the kitchen right when the acid kicks in. Caillou tries to grab the honey pot off the top shelf and knocks everything onto the floor. He makes the mess worse with his half-baked, half-assed honey cookies. Caillou gets caught by his mom and starts crying like a little bitch. Instead of sending Caillou to his room, his mom rewards his bad behavior by making him cookies after she does 90% of the cleanup. The next day, Caillou takes full credit for making the cookies and gleefully makes an even bigger mess like the little shit he is. Let's review. Caillou was as loud and obnoxious as possible despite his mom's objections. He tried to make cookies unsupervised and ended up trashing the whole kitchen. And even after he got caught, his mother did nothing to punish him, ensuring he'll grow up to be an even louder and messier psychopath. FU Caillou. Caillou is scared of his next-door neighbor and tries hiding in his mom's humongous ass. Mr. Hinkle tries to say hello, only for Caillou to run off like a total pussy. Mr. Hinkle goes to apologize to Caillou, even though he did nothing wrong.
I don't like him.
He doesn't like you either, bitch. Caillou refuses to be in the same room with his neighbor, so Mr. Hinkle turns it into a game of hide-and-seek, which ironically makes him seem way creepier than before. Caillou gets caught up in the game and eagerly jumps into his neighbor's arms, proving he was stupid to be scared of him in the first place. Let's review. Caillou feared his neighbor for no good reason and went out of his way to avoid him. He hurt Mr. Hinkle's feelings and refused to make friends with him until he realized he liked being chased and caught by older men. But I'm sure that won't affect Caillou's future in any way, shape, or form. FU Caillou. Caillou hates vegetables almost as much as I hate Caillou. His parents tell him he can't go to the park until he finishes his broccoli. Caillou says fuck that and sneaks off to eat cookies instead. Grandpa shows up to take Caillou to the park, and Caillou tells his vegetables to rot in hell. Grandpa explains why animals need food for energy, while Caillou hunts down a squirrel who had the misfortune of crossing the 3-year-old psychopath. Grandpa tricks Caillou into eating his vegetables by acting like a bear and telling him his peas and carrots are actually bear food. Caillou's grandma then brings out a plate of cookies and Caillou swipes them all for himself like the greedy little whore he is. Let's review. Caillou refused to eat his vegetables and tried stealing cookies behind his parents' back. He ditched his parents to go to the park with his grandpa, where he scared the crap out of a poor little squirrel. He only ate his vegetables after getting tricked by his grandpa and reverted to his old ways the second a plate of sweets was put in front of him, which will likely screw up his eating habits for years to come. FU Caillou. Caillou's mom is trying to do her taxes when the bald-headed bitch boy strolls in to pester the crap out of her. He tries to help, but ends up making a mess of her receipts. Caillou's mom tells him to go bother his father instead. Caillou finds his dad fixing the washer, only to have it blow up in his face. Caillou wants to play with the bubbles when his dad tells him to go bug Grandma instead. Grandma puts Rosie down for her nap when Caillou comes in screaming as if his grandma isn't 2 feet in front of his face. Rosie gets woken from her nap, prompting Grandma to tell Caillou to fuck off. Caillou is so toxic, even his cat wants nothing to do with him. Caillou sulks back to his room, where he decides to play with himself. Later, the grown-ups rush up to Caillou's room to make sure he hasn't burned it down, only to find him playing with his mountain of dinosaur toys. Let's review. Caillou managed to piss off nearly every adult in his family, all because he wanted to play. He made things worse for everyone in the house and discovered that only inanimate objects can tolerate his presence for more than 5 minutes at a time. FU Caillou. Caillou is having his daily toy orgy when his mom calls him down for chocolate pudding. Caillou's mom scolds him for leaving his toys on the stairs, especially since she already told him not to do that. She tells him to put away the toys, and Caillou takes his sweet time going up the stairs. Caillou is moments away from delicious pudding when his dad calls him out for leaving even more toys in the driveway, which again, Caillou was previously told not to do. Caillou goes back to his pudding when it turns out the bitch left even more toys in the bathroom. How many damn toys does this kid have? His dad cleans up the mess and finds a smelly rubber duck in the toilet, which can only mean Caillou was bathing in the toilet water with the other pieces of shit. Caillou finally gets to chow down on room temperature pudding when his mom suggests giving some of his older toys to Rosie. Caillou begrudgingly agrees to give up 1 toy. Instead of giving all the unused toys to charity, Caillou's dad makes a big-ass toy box for his son so he can hoard all his menial possessions for the rest of his life. Let's review. Caillou left his toys all over the house even though he already knew he wasn't supposed to. He tried to avoid cleaning up in favor of chocolate pudding. And instead of punishing their son, Caillou's parents rewarded his untidiness by making sure he never has to give up any of his toys ever. FU Caillou. Caillou is terrorizing his cat with his toy cars when his dad invites him to help wash the car. Caillou proceeds to sit in the car while his dad does all the work. Caillou imagines driving a fast car by himself, God help us, when he honks the horn and causes his dad to spray all over himself. Instead of apologizing, Caillou laughs in his dad's face. The two dry off the car and the family heads to the beach for a picnic. Caillou asks his dad if he'll teach him how to drive. His dad says yes after a very long pause where we can only assume he was envisioning just how much damage the pint-sized terror could do with an actual automobile. Let's review. Caillou became obsessed with cars and turned it into his whole personality. He put off his chores to play pretend and caused his dad to get all wet. He gave his dad a reason to worry when he said he wanted to drive a real car, which will only make the roads way more hellish for everyone else. FU Caillou. Caillou is going to daycare for the first time, and the ankle biter refuses to leave his mother's side.
No, I don't want you to go, Mommy.
Caillou is shocked to see kids his own age with hair and chooses not to talk to any of them. Caillou is playing with blocks when Leo steals all of them for himself, leaving the bratty baby to cry out for his mommy. Clementine takes pity on the poor boy and shows him how to make arts and crafts. Clementine and Leo make the foolish mistake of becoming Caillou's friends as the maladjusted meathead spills paint all over the floor. The trio gets so invested in their crafts, Caillou blows off his parents when they come to pick him up. Ungrateful bastard. Let's review. Caillou had a full breakdown the first time his mom took him to daycare. He refused to play with the other kids until they took pity on him, forming a friendship that will likely fall apart the moment the two realize just how terrible Caillou is. FU Caillou. Caillou is launching his toy cars into his teddy bear's crotch when Rosie says she wants to play. Caillou is horrified to find his little sister wearing his favorite shirt and starts crying like a weenie.
Get some Kleenex, wipe your nose, cause it ain't that damn sad.
Caillou chews out his mom for giving his shirt to Rosie, even though she points out it doesn't fit him anymore. Caillou refuses to accept reality and forces mommy to steal the shirt off Rosie's back. And I would put a censor bar here, but apparently children in Canada don't have nipples. Or hair. Caillou continues to lie to himself as he struggles to fit into his old shirt. Look, Caillou, as someone who wears 3XLs, believe me when I say you're better off just wearing a bigger shirt. Caillou spends the afternoon making an ass out of himself before finally admitting he's too big for his favorite shirt. However, he still refuses to let his sister have it and instead gives the shirt to his teddy bear. Cause God forbid we ever have an episode end with his bratty baby learning how to share. Let's review. Caillou lost his goddamn mind when he found his sister wearing a shirt he had outgrown. He wore it purely out of spite until he was forced to accept reality. And even then, he still insisted on giving the shirt to his teddy bear, as he'd rather eat glass than share anything with his baby sister. FU Caillou. Caillou is scared to visit the doctor and tries to hide in his mom's vagina. Turns out Caillou is recovering from an ear infection, as he's been driven deaf by all his own bitch crying. The pediatrician comes in and Caillou straight up threatens her with his prehistoric plushie. The doctor tries to do her job and Caillou bursts into tears on cue. The doctor tries to placate the borscht baby by giving him the medical equipment to play with. Caillou finally calms down after he uses the otoscope on his teddy bear. The doctor gives his ears a clean bill of health, but never questions why this 4-year-old has no fucking hair. Great work, Doc. I hope the 10 years of medical school and insurmountable student debt was worth having to put up with a psychotic squirt. It would seem all's well that ends well, until Caillou decides to play doctor at home. Boy, don't stare into the damn flashlight. He goes about inflicting his cruel tactics on his baby sister, grandma, and cat. Man, the new Saw prequel looks great.
I want to look in your ear.
I want to play a game.
Let's review. Caillou was afraid the doctor was going to hurt him, even though it's his own damn fault he got an ear infection in the first place. He threatened to hurt the doctor and refused to calm down until she let him play with her equipment. Caillou used his newfound confidence to terrorize his family, ensuring they'll never have a peaceful night's sleep ever again. FU Caillou. Caillou wants to make a snowman while wearing his summer clothes. Daddy tells him if he does that, he'll freeze to death, which isn't exactly a deal breaker. At breakfast, Caillou hogs all the cereal and is somehow surprised when it runs out. Mommy says they need to go to the store for ingredients for a special surprise cake. Is the surprise that it's cake? Mommy is about to leave for the store, but Caillou wants to stay home and play. Mommy manages to get him in the car after the doughy-eyed douche-sickle takes forever to get ready. The family gets to the store and Caillou yells at his mom to let him ride in the cart.
I want to ride like Rosie.
Is something wrong with your legs? They don't look broken. Yet, Mommy, who doesn't have the balls to spank her child in public, gives Caillou a ride even though his lazy ass takes up half the damn cart. Caillou whines that he wants cookies, even though his mom reminds him they're having surprise cake. Mommy puts Caillou in charge of watching Rosie at the checkout. Mistake number 1. Caillou is still butthurt he didn't get his cookies and sneaks off to go get them. But what's the endgame here, Caillou? Even if you get the cookies, your mom's just gonna make you put them back. Caillou gets lost and starts screaming for his mommy. She finds him crying in the aisles, like a weenie, when Caillou tries to gaslight his mom into thinking she's the one who abandoned him.
You went away.
Bitch, don't even. Back at home, Caillou promises not to wander off again, but says he still wants to build a snowman. His mom reveals they're going to do just that. Surprise, surprise. The surprise cake turns out to be a snowman, with a licorice scarf and eyes made out of almonds, which will mask the taste of cyanide. Let's review. Caillou made his mother's errands a nightmare by taking his sweet time to get ready and then forcing her to wheel him around the grocery store. Caillou tried to steal cookies behind his mom's back and ended up getting lost like a dumbass. He made a scene in the store and tried to blame his mom for his own actions. And in the end, not only was Caillou not punished, but he was rewarded for his bad behavior with a special surprise cake. Though we can only hope the surprise is that the cake puts him in an early grave. FU Caillou. Caillou is carrying a pile of dirty clothes down to the laundry room, even though he wears the same damn shirt every day. He trips over his own 2 feet and almost falls down the stairs. Almost. Caillou's mom sits him on the washing machine and accidentally unlocks his new kink.
It was a good feeling.
Please don't say it like that. Mommy catches the jittery germ factory when he falls and almost cracks his head. Again, almost. Mommy sends Caillou upstairs so she can have the washing machine to herself. Caillou decides to get dressed all by himself, only to realize he doesn't have any clean clothes, cause he waited till all his clothes were dirty before deciding to wash them, which is honestly way too relatable. The audience is forced to spend the next minute looking at a 4-year-old in his underwear. Daddy tells Caillou to get dressed, only to realize it's his own damn fault his child doesn't have enough clothes. Daddy resolves this issue by dressing up Caillou in his own clothes, with a hand-drawn pube stash to boot.
Every inch a gentleman.
Every inch of what? Caillou's douchebag makeover is complete. Mommy commemorates the occasion with a photo, which she'll later use against her husband to argue for full custody. Let's review. Caillou waited until the last minute to do his laundry, leaving him with no clean clothes and forcing him to wander around in his tidy off-color whiteys. Caillou's dad tried to fix things by dressing up his son as an even bigger asshole than he already is. Though after his special time with the washing machine, I doubt Caillou will skip laundry day ever again. FU Caillou. Caillou refuses to take a bath and runs around the house in a bath towel. He tries to hide in Rosie's room until he accidentally shoves a rubber duck up his ass. Caillou's mom drags him to the tub, where he yells at her and throws his bath toys on the floor. Caillou tries to escape and runs face first into his dad's crotch. Caillou tells Daddy he wants to play. Caillou's parents finally get him in the tub, where he gets enthralled by the bubbles. Caillou decides he wants his ducky. Instead of asking his parents to get it, Caillou gets out of the tub and runs around the house bare-ass naked. Caillou then overloads the tub with bubbles and splashes his bathwater on Mommy and Daddy. Gross! In a cruel twist of irony, Caillou refuses to get out of the tub. Good! The pruny pipsqueak can stay in there until he drowns or freezes to death for all I care. Let's review. Caillou refused to take a bath until his parents forced him to. He ran around the house naked and only changed his mind once he realized he could turn bath time into playtime. And even when he decided he now likes baths, he refused to get out of the tub and soaked his parents with his dirty bathwater. F you, Caillou. Caillou's parents have made it through another day with the pre-K canker sore and promptly put him to bed. They tell him not to let the bedbugs bite, even though we'd all be better off if the bedbugs swallowed him whole. Caillou is about to fall asleep when the bedbugs arrive to devour his soul. Instead of accepting his fate, Caillou screams for his mommy. It turns out the bedbugs were just a shadow from the window, because I guess the bratty butt wipe doesn't get how light works. Caillou's mom assures him that monsters aren't real, which is like telling the boogeyman that Bigfoot doesn't exist. Caillou's mom tells him to shut up and go to sleep. Caillou says fuck that and gets up to investigate the mysterious scratching sound. He stumbles around in the dark and ends up choking himself with his toy snake. We've all been there. Caillou screams for his daddy, who tries to soothe the hairless hellspawn with his music box. The scratching sound startles Caillou again as he wakes up the whole house with his ear-bleeding wails. Surprise, surprise, it turns out the noise was Gilbert the cat trapped in a paper bag. The family laughs off the cat's near asphyxiation and puts Caillou to bed with his teddy bear and several spoonfuls of NyQuil. Let's review. Caillou refused to go to sleep and woke his parents up on 3 separate occasions because he was too afraid of the dark. This turned out to be a massive waste of time, as the monster turned out to be Gilbert all along. And even if there were monsters hiding in the dark, they'd all go running because Caillou is undoubtedly the scariest creature in the room. FU Caillou. Caillou is depressed because he has no friends.
Don't you have any friends?
No.
Gee, I wonder why. Instead of letting Caillou accept reality, his grandma tries to cheer him up. She reminds him about Clementine and the time she shared her candy, only for Caillou to spill it all over the floor. Boy, don't eat the dirty-ass floor candy. Grandma also reminds him about Leo, who's only good for farting up the swing set. Quit laughing, you little nasties. Grandma quickly realizes Caillou has no other friends and decides to pull some more out of her ass. She gaslights him into thinking his cat and next-door neighbor are his friends, even though he's been shitty to both in the past. She also says his family counts as friends, even though there's no way his parents would tolerate Caillou's crap if they weren't blood-related. Caillou is cheered up by his grandma's lies, while baby Rosie slowly turns into a blueberry. Let's review. Caillou realized he had no friends because he's a whiny little bitch. His grandma tried to cheer him up, but quickly realized Caillou was right. She ended up fibbing about the amount of friends he has to keep Caillou's malicious mischief in check. A delusion Caillou was more than happy to buy into. FU Caillou. Caillou is celebrating his 4th birthday, as he's managed to go another year without catching himself on fire. The big-headed birthday boy chows down on cake frosting and refuses to share any with baby Rosie. His father scolds him for not sharing, before proving himself to be a massive hypocrite.
Oh, Daddy.
Nice going, Daddy. Caillou opens a present from his grandma and is disappointed when it turns out to be a sweater. Grandma asks Caillou if he likes it, and Mommy interjects before Caillou can say something bitchy. Just then, Leo and Clementine show up, who I'm guessing were bribed by Caillou's parents to come to the party. Daddy next paints the kids' faces and resists the urge to stab his son's eyes out with the paintbrush. Daddy paints the kids to look like animals, clowns, and Ming the Merciless. Caillou gets his face painted like Gilbert and scares the crap out of the poor cat with his resting ooh-woo face. The kids get their snack on as Caillou and Leo fight over a Twizzler and nearly go full Lady and the Tramp. Caillou gets his birthday cake and takes forever to come up with a wish. Deja vu. He wishes for the same dinosaur toy and then digs into his cake with his bare hands like a goddamn savage. He gives up after 2 bites, like a quitter, when his parents give him his final present. Gee, I wonder what it could be. Caillou tears into his present to find a special dinosaur toy. Damn, that actually looks pretty cool. Later, the guests are having sundaes when Rosie splatters ice cream all over Caillou's shirt. Nice shot. Mommy changes Caillou into the sweater from his grandma, which, surprise surprise, has a dinosaur on it. Which is nice, but I'm not sure why she had to change him in front of everyone. Let's review. Caillou spent his birthday waiting impatiently to get another dinosaur toy to add to his ever-growing collection. He refused to share his sweets with his sister and scared his cat for no good reason. He only got 2 other kids to come to his party and almost made out with one of them. He silently resented his grandma for getting him a tacky sweater until he realized it had a dinosaur on it, because apparently dinosaurs make up the total sum of Caillou's interests and personality. FU Caillou. Caillou is hiding in his grandpa's cupboard when his stupid ass gets stuck. His grandpa contemplates letting him suffocate before changing his mind. Damn. Caillou explains that he was hiding in a hiding place, the same way his parents are hiding from him by making him Grandpa's problem. Grandpa then asks Caillou if he can keep a secret. No, he can't.
Caillou wondered what Grandpa was going to tell him.
If you'd shut up for a second, we'll find out. Grandpa tells Caillou he has a special hiding place in the garden, which is a big fat red flag. Grandpa then takes Caillou to a secondary location where they spend way too long looking for the obvious hiding place.
I'm sure this is the right tree.
It's the only tree in your backyard, dumbass. Caillou crawls inside the tree trunk, which is way bigger on the inside and even has its own echo.
It's the best special hiding place in the world.
How is this tree not dead? The next day, Caillou takes his toys to the tree trunk as Rosie follows after him. Caillou tells his baby sister to piss off, as he refuses to share the hiding hole that doesn't even belong to him. He hurts Rosie's feelings so badly that he makes her cry. Best big brother ever. Caillou is playing with his tacky dinosaur toys when he stumbles across a miniature cowboy. Surprise, surprise, it turns out the cowboy belonged to Daddy when he was Caillou's age. Daddy explains how he used the hiding hole to play with his miniature cowboy, along with a miniature cop, construction worker, and Native American. And we never see Caillou's hiding hole again after this episode, because his grandpa probably realized the tree had been dead for several years and chopped it down to keep the vermin from spreading to the house. Let's review. Caillou tried to hide from his grandpa for reasons we'll never fully understand and immediately got stuck. When his grandpa showed him a better hiding place, he refused to share it with his baby sister and yelled at her until she cried. And not only was Caillou not punished for yelling at Rosie, but he was rewarded with his father's hand-me-down action figure, FU Caillou. Caillou scares his cat Gilbert with a drawing of the demon possessing his soul. Caillou is bored and says he wants to play. He goes to find Rosie, who's taking a nap. Instead of leaving her alone, Caillou sneaks up to her crib and stares at her while she sleeps. What the hell? Caillou gets scolded by his father, who looks like he's wearing his wife's clothes again. Caillou tells Daddy he wants to play. Daddy tells Caillou to go away, as he and Mommy are busy retiling the bathroom, presumably after Caillou tore it to shreds. Caillou spends the rest of the afternoon torturing his poor cat. He crashes Gilbert into the furniture and somehow doesn't get his eyes scratched out. He then tries to read his cat a story. Good to know at least one of these brats can read. Gilbert doesn't give two craps about the story, as he's content to lay on the couch and lick his balls. Aren't we all? Caillou then dresses up Gilbert for a wholesome game of pimps and hoes. He wheels the cat around the house, again, when Gilbert flees the stroller and damn near ruins the bathroom. Caillou's parents scold him for playing dress-up with a cat.
You know how you don't like to play baby games? That's because you're not a baby.
I know a lot of people who would disagree with you. They tell him to play games that a cat would like. This instantly backfires when Caillou goes too method and becomes a cat kid. Let's review. Caillou had nobody to play with because he has no friends. He stalked his baby sister and bugged his parents to no end. He then spent the entire afternoon coming up with new ways to torture his cat and ended up becoming a full-on pussy. FU Caillou. Caillou is riding his new tricycle when some fat-ass squirrel steals his cookie. He tries to tell his mom, only to find her passed out drunk on the patio. Caillou takes advantage of his mom's midday stupor and runs away from home. He goes around the corner when the same chunky boy from earlier throws an acorn at his head, though it's not like he could miss Caillou's head if he tried. He ends up standing in the sprinkler with his clothes on as he plots his vengeance on the neighborhood. Caillou next runs into his female doppelganger, who teaches him how to play hopscotch.
Throw your rock like this.
Caillou ends up throwing his rock into the street, but sadly doesn't get hit by oncoming traffic. Turns out Caillou is so bad at hopscotch, he does the bunny hop all the way around the corner. Caillou passes by some scary-ass gnomes when he's confronted by an even scarier-ass dog. Girl, what's wrong with your face? Turns out the dog belongs to Sarah. Sarah is surprised Caillou has managed to make it this far without getting himself killed. Then again, who lets a 6-year-old walk their dog around the neighborhood unsupervised? Also, what happened to your skateboard from 2 minutes ago? Did your skateboard magically turn into the dog? Caillou gets lost even though Sarah literally just told him how to get back to his house. He gets spooked by a giant murder crow and bursts into tears like the weenie he is. Just then, Caillou runs into his gardener neighbor, who apparently speaks in rhyme.
I know you. You're Caillou.
She gives him a tomato for his troubles and walks him back to his house, since she's the only adult on this show with a working brain. Caillou's mom only now realizes her child was missing. She tells him not to leave the house by himself again, lest he destroy half the town in his wake. And we never see the gardener or the hopscotch girl ever again, because after spending 5 minutes with the round-headed rapscallion, they promptly moved away. Let's review. Caillou ran away from home the second his mother's back was turned and threatened to wreak havoc on the neighborhood. He got scared by every little thing and got lost almost immediately. And even when he finally got back home, he bragged to his mom that it's only a matter of time before he can go out into the world on his own. God help us all. FU Caillou. Caillou attempts to make the world's largest sandcastle.
Done.
What a bunch of crap. He gets spooked when a passing dog barks at him, cause all dogs know a demon when they smell one. Caillou is now terrified of dogs and runs crying to his mommy. The next day, Caillou is staying with his grandma who, surprise surprise, has a dog in the house. Caillou hears the dog bark and locks himself in the closet. Caillou refuses to come out of the closet until his grandma convinces him to stop being a total weenie. They go to check on the dog, who turns out to be his doppelganger. His doggelganger? Boo! Caillou insists on locking the dog in the other room as he's still scared of having his face bitten off. He changes his mind, however, when his grandma reads him a story about dogs and goes to check on the puppy. Caillou jokes how the puppy looks like his mom's slipper, and since these two are practically identical, that must mean Caillou inherited his face from his mom's foot. Caillou cautiously approaches the dog, who is clearly more scared of Caillou than Caillou is of him. Caillou spends the rest of the afternoon showing his new puppy pal how to play. The two fall asleep together as Caillou has conquered his fear of dogs, even though the dog from the park seems to still have it out for him. Let's review. Caillou got scared by a barking dog and ran crying to his mommy. He refused to play with his grandma's puppy until she showed him the dog was harmless, proving Caillou was stupid to be afraid in the first place. FU Caillou. Caillou is staring at his own ass when a fly tries to make a suicide run down his throat. His grandma shows up to babysit, and Caillou tries to drag her through the mail slot.
You're too big.
Way to fat shame, asshole. Grandma puts on a puppet show for Rosie, which gets interrupted by Gilbert.
What the fuck?
Caillou gets ready for bed, but not before he tries to eat your soul.
I want your soul.
Caillou struggles to fall asleep with all the sunlight in his room. That's what happens when you send your kids to bed at 4:30. He spends the next hour tossing and turning as he nearly destroys his bed. Grandma finds Caillou in a hapless state and realizes he doesn't have any curtains to keep out the sunlight. She puts up a sheet to keep out the light and then decorates it with light-up stickers, which kind of defeats the whole point. Caillou finally gets to sleep when the same damn fly from earlier threatens to keep him up all night. Let's review. Caillou nearly broke his grandma's arm trying to drag her through the mail slot and refused to go to sleep until she decorated his room with tacky space stickers. And even though this episode is fairly tame, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say FU Caillou. Caillou tries to make his baby sister deaf by blowing his toy trumpet in her ear. He then tries to give her a seizure by banging pans in front of her face. It turns out Caillou is excited to go to the parade, specifically so he can see the clowns.
I love clowns.
What a surprise! Unfortunately for him, his baby sister is terrified of clowns, as she rightfully should be, so Mommy says they can't go.
I don't know if it's such a good idea to go to the parade.
But Mommy, Caillou really wants to go to the parade. Caillou is 10 seconds away from burning his house to the ground. He calls Rosie a big stupid baby while crying like a big stupid baby. He tries to cure her fear of clowns by showing her the scariest toy on the face of the earth. Caillou points out that Rosie can't be afraid of clowns if she can't see the clowns, which makes me worry he's planning to stab her eyes out. Mommy intervenes in Caillou's flirt with fratricide and tries to fix things herself, which has always worked out perfectly in the past. Mommy dresses up Caillou as a clown, which is somehow supposed to make Rosie less afraid of clowns. Rosie watches in horror as Caillou transitions into his true form. He uses Gilbert's furball as a wig, as he has no idea what real hair looks like. Caillou completes his transformation into Naughty the Elf, and scares the crap out of his cat. Mommy says they can now go to the parade, but Caillou's carnival of chaos is far from over, as he then forces Rosie to dress as a clown. Because this was Caillou's plan the whole time, to turn his sister into a clown so he and the other circus freaks can become the dominant species. That's what Caillou has always wanted, and he'll destroy us all to make it happen.
Destroy us all! Destroy us all! Destroy us all!
Let's review. Caillou insisted on going to the parade so he could become acclimated to his clown brethren. His sister's rational fear of clowns threw a wrench in his plans, so he defaulted to crying and screaming until he got what he wanted. Caillou sought to eliminate his sister's fear by repeatedly scaring her and dressing her up as a clown, which again would have the absolute opposite effect. He successfully brainwashed Rosie into his clown cult and got Mommy to take them to the parade, where they'll undoubtedly release God knows how many horrors upon the helpless townsfolk. FU Caillou. The episode opens with the narrator crushing her Caillou doll's head with her fat ass. Lucky doll. Mommy tells Caillou to get dressed so they can run their rainy day errands. Caillou is so excited that he puts his rain boot on the wrong foot, like a dumbass. Mommy tension.
Caillou? Caillou? Caillou!
Caillou suddenly remembers he has to go, and runs off to the bathroom before he shits his pants. And judging by the look on Daddy's face, Caillou doesn't quite make it in time. Caillou is bare ass on the toilet when his dad comes in to watch him go potty. Daddy reminds Caillou that Mommy is still waiting by the front door. Caillou pulls up his pants and wipes his ass. In that order, only to find Mommy has put away the raincoats. Turns out Caillou was in the bathroom for so long that the rain has stopped. Caillou and Mommy finally head to the grocery store and Caillou jumps in every damn puddle along the way. Cause if his parents don't kill him, then surely pneumonia will get him in the end. Let's review. Caillou dragged his feet, getting ready to go outside. He got all his rain gear on before remembering he had to take a shit. He took his sweet ass time getting to the bathroom and then pissed away even more time while taking a piss. And even when he was finally ready to go, he had taken so much time that the weather had completely changed. FU Caillou. Caillou and Sarah are playing in the snow when the older girl asks if he wants to make a snowman. Caillou agrees to make the snowman's head, which, much like his own, is rounded smooth and full of nothing.
Gonna make a snowman, gonna make a snowman.
Still better than Frozen. Instead of asking for help, Caillou decides to dick around and falls flat on his face. Caillou gives up after 10 seconds like the whiny little quitter he is.
I can't do it. I hate making the snowman.
Well, it's not like the snowman likes you either, you little bald bitch. Sarah takes pity on the pathetic pipsqueak and offers to help him make the biggest snowman in the world.
The biggest snowman in the world? In the universe.
Sarah, are you having a stroke? Sarah shows him how to make a snowball, but the lackluster lunkhead can't even do that right. Caillou finally makes a snowball and instinctively throws it at Sarah's head. What the hell? Caillou continues to hurl snowballs at Sarah, even after she tells him several times to stop. Sarah gets fed up with Caillou's crap and decides to go home, much to his dismay.
No, stay, please.
No, stay, please. That's what you sound like, Caillou. For some reason, Sarah agrees to stay and helps Caillou finish the snowman. They somehow put it together without Caillou destroying it when Mommy comes out to help decorate. Sarah decides to cosplay as other mother while Caillou plays with a carrot, and Mommy tells him exactly where he can stick it. The three head inside, but not before Caillou leaves a snowball snack for the snowman, which would be like feeding a dog smaller pieces of another dog. And while this might be the biggest snowman in the world, its head is still somehow smaller than Caillou's massive misshaped melon. Let's review. Caillou tried to make a snowman, but gave up when he realized he didn't know how. When Sarah showed him how to make a snowball, he thanked her by using the ball of ice as an act of war. He made Sarah so mad that she nearly went home, until the ill-tempered invalid convinced her to stay and finish what they started. FU Caillou. Caillou is spending the day with his grandma, and the cranky creeper is bored out of his stupid little head. He takes out his frustrations on his helpless block tower, while Grandma does everything in her power to keep him from having a complete meltdown. God bless her.
You must have got out of the wrong side of the bed today, Caillou.
No, the fact that he got out of bed at all is the issue here. Caillou insists he's not grumpy by yelling in his grandma's face, which in real life would lead to an immediate spanking. But no, Grandma instead rewards his crappy attitude with apple pie.
I don't want apple pie.
Who the hell doesn't want apple pie? Hell, I'll take that pie if you don't want it. Caillou proceeds to kick his favorite dinosaur into the ominous void of white space. Caillou tries to calm himself with Grandma's paint set and ends up making a huge mess. He ruins the paints by using the same brush for every color. He then crams his disgusting fingers directly into the paint jars and crudely smears them on the canvas. Grandma returns with the pie and somehow doesn't claw her eyes out at the sight of Caillou's god-awful self-portrait. The two chow down on pie when Mommy arrives to take Caillou home. Finally, Grandma tells him to come back anytime he feels grumpy, and Caillou proclaims he can't wait to be grumpy again. Is there no end to our despair? Let's review. Caillou spent the whole day in a crappy mood and yelled at his grandma when she tried to cheer him up. He took out his anger on his toys and made an absolute mess of his grandma's paints. And not only was Caillou not punished for his terrible behavior, but he was rewarded with apple pie and happily promised to be an even bigger pain in the near future. FU Caillou. The episode opens with two kids trying to drown their Caillou doll in the sink, even though you can't kill something that doesn't have a soul. Caillou's family is heading to the beach as they sing their ear-bleeding ditty of the damned.
The beach, the sea, we're off to see the sea.
That's just weak songwriting.
Caillou's family gets to the beach and leaves Rosie locked in the back seat. Caillou nearly runs face first into the ocean when his mom stops him to lather his head with sunscreen. I'm surprised she had enough to cover that big-ass chrome dome. Caillou runs off before she can finish and somehow doesn't get burnt to a crisp by the vengeful sun. Daddy takes his 3-year-old son into the ocean, even though Caillou obviously can't swim. Father of the year, folks. The two get into the water and nearly freeze their nips and balls off. Or rather, they would if they had either. The family sits down for lunch, and Caillou stupidly puts his sandwich in the sand, which sands up his sandwich. Caillou angrily tosses the food on the ground, and is still pissed when it gets swiped by a seagull. "You're the one who threw it out. What did you think was gonna happen?" Caillou's family laughs at his comeuppance before the round-headed reject tries to take out his anger on a helpless sand crab. Caillou follows the crab back to his home and starts screwing around with the defenseless sea creatures. Caillou stabs himself on a sea urchin when the same seagull from before shows up to laugh in his face. Mommy saves the bird from Caillou's wrath by having him build a sandcastle. Caillou runs to Mommy while the feral featherhead is on the warpath. Caillou finishes his craptastic sandcastle when Poseidon tries to drag him to the bottom of the ocean. Better luck next time, Poseidon. The family packs up as Caillou's sand abomination gets put out of its misery.
My castle!
The family heads home, but promises to come back tomorrow. And the next day. And the next day.
And the next day. And the next day. And the next day.
Let's review. Caillou ran rampant on the beach and somehow avoided drowning himself. He refused to put on sunscreen and went into the ocean despite not knowing how to swim. He tried to litter after ruining his own lunch and still had the gall to get mad when a bird stole it. He tortured the helpless beach animals until they were forced to fight back. And even when his family had to leave, Caillou vowed to return to the beach every day so he can ruin it for everyone. FU Caillou. Caillou struggles to shove his big-ass feet into his tiny-ass shoes. He barely squeezes them on and cries out in pain with every step. Music to my ears. Mommy tells Caillou he needs to get new shoes and has him put on his dorky-ass rain boots. Mommy takes Caillou to the shoe store and Caillou is bummed that he can't run or splash around in his rain boots. He bumps into Sarah, who can't run away fast enough from the large-headed leper. Caillou gets to the store and almost immediately tears it to the ground. He tries to bend a shoe in half and knocks down a window display, and somehow doesn't immediately get spanked by his mom. Mommy tries to get her child to pick a shoe, while Caillou takes forever to pick a damn color.
Hurry up already!
The store owner intervenes before Caillou can do any more damage and measures his feet. Mommy asks Caillou again to pick a shoe, and the tyrannical toddler nearly has a seizure. The owner makes the decision for him so he can get Caillou out of the store as fast as possible. Mommy also gets a new pair of shoes, and Caillou tries to measure her feet. Mommy says her feet stopped growing a long time ago, unlike the stress wrinkles around her eyes. The next day, Caillou is showing off his new kicks. Sarah watches hopelessly as the rampaging rascal runs headfirst into oncoming traffic. Let's review. Caillou refused to admit he needed new shoes until he nearly broke both his feet. He went to the shoe store where he proceeded to destroy the place. And even when he got his new shoes, his first instinct was to brag about them to his friends. FU Caillou. Caillou's grandpa shows up to take him to the big farm upstate. Damn, the one time that isn't a euphemism. Rosie is jealous she doesn't get to go and dumps spaghetti all over her brother's favorite teddy bear.
Look what Rosie did!
Looks like Caillou's starting to rub off on her. Caillou yells at his sister for ruining his teddy bear and nearly destroys her on the spot. Caillou whines that he can't take Teddy with him, and Mommy steps in to defuse the situation. She offers to wash Teddy so he's good as new, but Caillou doesn't want Teddy to go in the washing machine. Grandpa intervenes before things can get worse and leaves his daughter-in-law with a crying baby.
I hope the pumpkins aren't as heavy as you.
Damn, dude really just fat-shamed his grandson. The two head to the pumpkin patch, and Caillou picks the only pumpkin with flat colors. He tries to use it as a slide when he runs into Farmer James. Mrs. James brags how kids all over town send her pictures of her pumpkins after they've been turned into jack-o'-lanterns. Caillou asks where pumpkins come from, and Mrs. James explains what happens when a mommy pumpkin and a daddy pumpkin love each other very much. The two chow down on uncooked pumpkin seeds, gross, when Caillou runs off to play.
Caillou, where are you?
Here I am!
Grandpa tells Caillou he needs to pick a pumpkin, and the big-headed bilge rat insists on taking all of them home. But Grandpa says he can only choose one. Gee, I wonder which one he's gonna pick. Caillou tries to lift the pumpkin with his weak nerd arms when Grandpa tells him he'd be better off with the little one. They decide to take both home so they can give the smaller pumpkin to baby Rosie. However, Caillou insists on decorating her pumpkin by himself and doesn't let Rosie do a damn thing. Turns out Mommy and Rosie wash Teddy in the sink, and Caillou finally makes peace with his baby sister. Caillou punches out the eyes in the jack-o'-lantern and gives a piece of pumpkin to Gilbert, even though I'm pretty sure cats aren't supposed to eat pumpkin. The grown-ups finish carving the jack-o'-lantern jack-o'-lanterns and take a picture to send to Mrs. James. Turns out Daddy designed the larger pumpkin to look like Caillou's head. He even made it the same size. Let's review. Rosie got jealous of her brother and tried to destroy his teddy bear out of spite. Caillou then threw a major bitch fit and nearly killed his sister on the spot until his mom and grandpa intervened. He took his sweet time picking a pumpkin and couldn't even lift it by himself. And even when he finally made peace with his sister, he refused to let her help make a jack-o'-lantern. So, F you Rosie for acting like your brother and trying to ruin his favorite teddy bear. And of course, for hogging the pumpkins all to himself and refusing to let his little sister make a jack-o'-lantern. F you Caillou. It's a few days before Halloween, and Caillou still doesn't have a costume, even though he's already the scariest thing imaginable. He gets an idea and puts on a white sheet. Careful how you proceed, Caillou. He blindly stumbles into Rosie's room and scares the crap out of the poor girl. He takes off the sheet, which only scares her even more. Caillou explains how Halloween is great for dressing up and getting candy.
It's not supposed to be scary, it's supposed to be fun.
Mommy suggests they come up with a costume that doesn't involve cutting eye holes in the laundry. She pulls out a random shirt and insists it's a princess costume. Princess Cheapskate to be exact. Caillou then asks Daddy to help him find a costume, and the boisterous beta male dresses his son in his old clothes.
Why don't you try this on for size?
Can Caillou's family seriously not afford to buy real costumes? Even the dollar store has some decent masks. Caillou dresses up as if he were a daddy, and the thought of this little hellspawn bringing more Caillou babies into the world is enough to nearly make me stab my eyes out. Daddy gives Rosie a bow tie, so she decides to be a clown princess. So, Harley Quinn basically?
I don't make deals with psychopaths.
Sociopath. Sociopath.
Caillou tries to move around in his creepy costume and nearly falls on his ass. Daddy insists they'll find a costume for him before Halloween, and Daddy turns out to be a big fat liar. Caillou's parents sit on their ass until Halloween night, and the bratty baby still doesn't have a costume. Caillou helps Mommy prep for trick-or-treaters by putting candy in baggies and drawing a jackass-o'-lantern. Caillou sulks that he still can't decide what he wants to be for Halloween. He goes rummaging through the basement, but only manages to find his dad's high heels. Just then, Caillou finds a blue fur boa and experiences his furry awakening. He has his mom dress him like a cat, along with Rosie, who is now a princess clown cat. Sure, why not? Caillou says his sister can't be 3 different things for Halloween, and Rosie tells him to back off.
You can't be everything, Rosie. Rosie princess, clown, and cat.
Hell yeah, Rosie, you tell him. Caillou decides to ditch his fursona and tries to come up with something completely different. Daddy says Caillou should go as a monster, which is great since Caillou can just go dressed as himself. He puts on a swim cap, which is apparently too tight, since he starts to hallucinate his shadow coming to life and running away into the candy trees. Though I'm not surprised the shadow monster is less scary than Caillou. Caillou says he wants to be a monster so he can have as much candy as he wants. He tries to steal the candy for the trick-or-treaters until his dad tells him to cut the crap. Caillou spends the afternoon practicing his scary face and nearly cracks the mirror. Caillou's mom somehow makes a whole costume out of the boa, and the little brat proudly shows off his mommy's mini monster Muppet suit. Just then, Caillou's friends come to the door, and Daddy decides they should prank their asses. Rosie is showing off her Princess Kitty Clown costume when Caillou jumps out and scares the ever-loving crap out of his friends.
It's just me.
That's even worse!
The two compliment Caillou's costume, which, not gonna lie, is pretty badass. Even if he does look like Little Brown Bear got into the blueberry patch. The trio set out to wreak havoc on the neighborhood, and Caillou promises not to eat all his candy in one night, which is a big old crock of crap. Let's review. Caillou waffled on putting together a Halloween costume and was somehow surprised when he ran out of time to come up with an idea. Instead of going to a regular store, he resorted to rummaging through random crapola and ended up becoming a furry in the process. And even when he finally put together a decent costume, he let his dad talk him into scaring his friends. So, F you Mommy and Daddy for being too stingy to get your kids real costumes and waiting till the last minute to throw something together. And of course, for going full furry and scaring the crap out of his friends, F you Caillou. It's Halloween night, and Caillou is yelling at his mom to take him trick-or-treating. The poor woman relents and agrees to release her son onto the unsuspecting public. Yay! Caillou then marches up to his room like a dumbass. Caillou decides to dress like an astronaut, presumably so his parents can launch him into space. Rosie wants to dress like a clown until she gets Vietnam flashbacks from the time her brother traumatized her. Rosie is now terrified of becoming the Terrifier and refuses to put on her costume. Mommy stupidly assumes Rosie doesn't want to go trick-or-treating at all. Caillou can't can't comprehend why his sister would be scared. His mom says Rosie is still too little for Halloween, even though it's much more frightening living with an older brother who beats you up and scares you with creepy costumes. Instead of coming up with another costume, Mommy agrees to stay home with Rosie. Meanwhile, Daddy somehow manages to find a helmet big enough to fit his son's enormous head. For Mommy's sake, I really hope Caillou was a C-section baby. Caillou and Daddy head out to go trick-or-treating and pass by Gilbert's grave. They get to the first house, and Daddy leaves Caillou on the doorstep by himself. Bet that's not the first time he's tried that. Caillou knocks on the door when his mind suddenly goes blank.
You haven't forgotten what to say, have you?
For God's sake, it's 3 words. Caillou drags his feet before finally spitting out trick or treat. Mr. Hinkle gives him some candy, and the astronaut brags how he's much braver than his baby sister.
Rosie was too scared to come trick-or-treating, Mr. Hinkle.
Oh, you can just screw all the way off to the moon. Caillou next runs into Leo and Clementine, who are dressed as Frankenstein's monster and the nurse from Exorcist 3. Clementine shows off her hoard of treats, which is 90% cherry lollipops and butterscotch hard candies. Gross. The 3 go around town and terrorize their neighbors into giving them several assloads of candy. Where was all this candy when I went trick-or-treating? What difference does it make if I'm almost 30? I still made the costume. The kids head back to Caillou's house, where Rosie struggles to remove the helmet from the astronaut's massive misshapen melon. She gets the helmet off, revealing the true monster underneath. The trio head inside as Caillou declares he loves Halloween, even though we all know this little bald bastard is incapable of feeling human emotions. Let's review. Caillou yelled at his parents to take him trick-or-treating, and then nearly chickened out at the first house. When Rosie got scared by her costume, her mom decided to keep her home instead of trying to help her overcome her fears. And even though Rosie stopped being scared, it's unlikely Caillou will share any of his candy with her. Hell, he'll probably try to eat it all before the crack of dawn. So, FU Mommy for making your daughter stay home from trick-or-treating. And of course, for being a half-assed astronaut, FU Caillou.
Wait!
Is there a cartoon you want me to talk about? Patrons who join my $10 tier can pick which shows I cover on It's Just a Cartoon. There's a limited number of slots available, so sign up now. Also, I'm now on Cameo, so make sure to check out my profile to get a personalized FU video.